Good evening. Thank you guys for coming in tonight. This is public caucus for PFM for the City of Scranton bond sale document review. We have Melissa Hughes from PFM, Eileen Cipriani from City of Scranton, and Matt Domines, City of Scranton. Thank you. If you guys want to begin, and we'll have any questions as we go.
Great. It is really wonderful to be back in front of you this evening because I have only good things to say, I believe. So I'm going to review the results of the city's bond sale, which was held on March 14th, 2024. And you might recall that I was here on February 15th to discuss it in caucus. So at that time, you might recall that I reported that we were waiting for the city's credit rating, and that would have a big impact on the overall costs and the overall outcome. And I am so happy to report that you got a 2-notch credit rating upgrade. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to read selected passages from the credit rating report because I think they are worthy of that kind of focus.
We welcome good news, Melissa.
I welcome good news too. I have worked for the city since 2014. It has not always been good news. The rating action reflects our view of the city's improved liquidity position, ability to maintain structural balance without reliance on federal stimulus funds, and reduce contingent liability exposure after the settlement of several material lawsuits. That's how they begin. A great place to begin. Let's talk about how they close. They give some direction at the end about what could make them increase your rating further or decrease their rating. The downside scenario. All else equal, if general fund operations become imbalanced, we could revise the outlook to stable. Additionally, a broader economic slowdown and prospective revenue pressure could also lead us to revise the outlook to stable. So there's one of those factors that's more within your control, and one of those factors that's totally outside your control. You can't control what the economy does, and within some parameters, you can control the actions you take to keep your budget in balance. Okay, so they're saying some things within your control, some things outside your control. Upside scenario. All else equal, if the city continues to demonstrate structural balance and a healthy liquidity position while spending down remaining ARP funds, we could raise the rating. Over the longer term, further upward rating potential is possible if the pension and OPEB liability improves and fixed costs moderate relative to the budget. So fixed costs are your debt service, your pension, and your OPEB costs. Okay. So all in all, really positive report from the credit rating agencies. And that really positive report from the credit rating agencies and the 2-notch upgrade, positive outlook, translated into additional debt service savings for the city. So on page 11 of the handout I put in front of you, if you compared this back to February, this is the same format we looked at on that evening, we had over $1.1 million, and we were pretty excited about that. The actual results netted the city $2,195,558 of net debt service savings. That's take home at the end of the day after costs are paid. That's your net savings. That's 7% of refunded par, so well in excess of that 2% benchmark that we talked about when I was here last time. The savings will be recognized just shy of $1.3 million in the current budget year, and then about $175,000 each year between 2025 and 2029. And we structured it that way because after 2029, you have a pretty precipitous drop-off in your debt service portfolio to begin with. So what this does is it gives you some upfront savings that you can take and use on one-time projects. Don't take non-recurring revenues and use on a non-recurring thing. So take it and use it on some one-time purposes. And then that $175,000, that is recurring. So you can work with your folks in your budget office to figure out how to reallocate those expenditures. So that number, 175,000, that will be freed up and available to go to another purpose. So overall, good news. And the numbers that we looked at on February 15th, those are pretty realistic numbers. I would say the vast majority of these savings are attributable to your increased credit quality, both reducing rates and reducing cost of issuance. And the biggest way that you see the cost of issuance, Councilman Schuster was asking me about this when I was here before, and I said, I can't give you the answer because I don't know what the rating is going to be. One of the biggest costs, and in fact, the biggest cost, is bond insurance, which is an upfront premium you pay that reduces costs over time.
Melissa, what page are you on now?
I am on page number 15.
15. Thank you.
That premium gets quoted as in basis points of total debt service, and the premium that we got from AGM, we get quotes from the two providers, was 45 basis points, and that was significantly less than the 60 we had budgeted and anticipated based on your prior credit rating. So that's about $60,000 directly in your pocket. The average rate of the issue is 3.27%. So if somebody asks you, what rate do we lock in? 3.27%. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone? Well, I'm happy we came in a lot higher than we originally thought.
Yep.
And our bond rating, I guess that was the reason we went up twice. So, yeah, absolutely. So when we get our first check, I will call it, that we get back, and that comes to us, is that over time, or how long?
So the way it works is you pay less upfront.
Okay.
So, Matt had budgeted a certain amount, $2,422,000 for this payment, and instead you're only going to pay 1.143. So you get an expense reduction.
Okay.
Is the way it will work. Yep.
And then the 75, is it 175,000 per year for
Between 25 and 29.
25 and 29?
And those are expense reductions also.
Okay.
So, Melissa, will this bond become callable again?
Yes.
When?
On May 15th, 2031.
Okay. I wouldn't expect we're going to get much better than where we're at now. But there are other bonds that we have out there.
Yes,
right?
your next real opportunity will come in 2027, and that's related to your series of 2017 bonds.
Okay.
Yep.
What's that? Do you recall what that one's sitting at, percentage rate?
Most of your stuff has coupon rates of 4s or 5s on average.
Okay. Well, we
Moving
won't know
towards-
until 2020.
Moving on average towards the 4s.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, this certainly is great news for the city.
It is.
Not only, do we save well over $1 million for the city, but our bond rating went up from BBB minus to BBB plus. That's almost unheard of. So I know sometimes we hear a lot of doom and gloom in this room, should I say. This is one that we can say that is extremely positive and provides a good outlook for the city moving forward financially. So that's great. Thank you so much.
And it's a result of a lot of hard work from
doubt.
all of you and everyone who's sat in the seat, over the last 5-10 years, and the administration working together, making good choices to put the city on a much better footing.
Well, you're right, and believe me, it's not easy to vote to increase taxes, and we have the last 2 years, 2%. The request was for much higher, but we were able to reduce it to 2% the last 2 years. But that, that certainly paid off in terms of increasing our S&P rating. So that's a big plus. The fact that we're paying down debt the way that we are, especially, with the pension fund, that paid off.
No more trans?
Right, exactly. We didn't have to do I always call it a TAN, a tax anticipation note. I know it's called a trans, but that was huge too.
Yeah.
So all good stuff.
Yeah. And it's ways that putting in the work pays off and makes it easier to put in the work going forward because you have less debt service and because you're not paying the expenses associated with doing a tax anticipation note.
Well, in 2.5 short years ago, we were still in, recovery. Not even in recovery. We were financially distressed for 30 years. So
Yep.
to see this happen in the last 2.5 years is pretty substantial. So that's something positive.
So in the end, we got the 3.27%
Yep.
interest rate. I know when we talked about this early on, we said, unless we hit a certain amount of savings, we weren't going to move forward with it. Do you remember what those numbers were that you gave us initially? And then how did we fare from that? Just to explain to the
Yeah.
audience and people that are new to
So-
this process.
We talked about having a net savings target of 2%, and we hit over 7%. So that's an efficiency perspective. And then we talked about in net dollars, in order to really do the transaction, we would want to see it at least $500,000. And we're at almost 2.3.
Yeah.
So,
So that
Councilman
net savings
Schuster,
target.
In February, it was, the percent was 3.77, you were estimating. The benchmark
Yeah.
was 2 or 3.7, and the estimated savings then was 1.1.
yeah.
So it ended up being, the percentage was 7%, and then the savings was 2.1.
Yeah,
Yep.
that 2.195.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
If I can just say, don't forget, we had another increase in last June, so really there was 3-notch increase in the span of, 10 months, 11 months, and that one in June of last year put us into the investment grade. But I also want to just recognize Melissa and Scott for the hard work that they've done on this. They helped guide me through this in the city, but, they did the brunt of the work on this, working with the bond council, the underwriters, getting the bond insurance and the RFPs, a lot of work from Melissa and Scott. So I just want to make sure that we recognize the work that you put into this.
And you, Matt, but thank you, yeah. It was definitely a team effort.
Yeah,
And it paid off, which is nice.
yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that all? Mrs. Cipriani, while we have you here, would you be able to give us any kind of an update on our police and fire contracts? I know we are working on something to try to let us know what's happening there, but do you have any update for us so that we know where direction we're going?
I'm not sure there's any update on the police. I think we were talking about the fire, and I did talk to Attorney Uffberg earlier today, and he did share that he spoke with you, Attorney Gilbride, on a timetable to have the document for you. Just for context, we had, I believe it's 26 years of contracts, agreements, side agreements, lawsuits, et cetera, that had never been put into one document. So it's been a very time-consuming process involving not only our labor attorneys, but labor attorneys for the union as well. So I know he shared with you a timetable, so I'm sure that you'll be able to give them more details on when that will be.
So when it comes to the police contract is pretty much
I believe so. I didn't check into that one. I had been asked to look into the fire one.
All right, thank you, Eileen. Anyone else? We're good. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.